Hey YouTube, thanks for clicking. Welcome to Making Jupiter. If you've been watching the series, this episode is a little different. I'm going to use two different approaches to recreate Jupiter in After Effects, and that's mainly because I can't decide which is better. This is animated images versus procedural textures. Fight! I'm going to be using the free Orb plugin from Video Copilot to create both Jupiters. The difference will be in how I create the textures. And incidentally, if you can't use Orb for whatever reason, then check out Makin Mercury using CC Sphere instead. This video is shaping up to be another epic, so let's just jump right in. Here we are in After Effects. I have a 1080 comp with a camera and parallel lights set up for my sun stand-in. I have two layers, each with the orb effect already on. I also have nested comps set up and set to be texture maps for each of the orbs. I figured this is a sensible place to start at this point, as it's pretty standard stuff. If you need help getting to here, check out Makin Venus. For the animated image version, I image searched for Jupiter texture map and chose this one from NASA's JPL gallery. Now, I could just whack this image on and call it a day, but it's a gas giant and I wanted to add a little bit of subtle movement to make it feel like it wasn't just a Google sourced image dropped onto a sphere. So let's add it as a layer to our animated image comp. Now I'm going to use the Liquify effect to add localized distortion, but in case I want to go bigger in future with using that source image, which is only 2K, I'm going to add the effect onto an adjustment layer instead. Go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, and then go to Effect, Distort, Liquify. Expand the View section and turn on View Grid. I find this handy for checking as I go on, and set the mesh size to large. Select one of the twirl tools and expand the tool options. Set the brush size to around 20 and then start painting distortion onto the stage. And settle in. This is going to take some time. Or just download my comp link below to use my settings. When you're done, make sure you're on the first frame of your comp and set a keyframe for the distortion percentage to 0%. Now move to the end of your comp and set a new keyframe to 100%. Then when you play back the sequence, depending on the length of your comp, you should see a very subtle movement. It's just enough to help sell the effect. A bit like how you can instinctively know the difference between a still of a field of grass and a video of that same field. Jump back to our main comp and that's it done. Procedural is a bit more involved. Create a new solid, layer, new solid, make it comp sized and hit OK. Hit enter and rename it Base Clouds. Add a Fractal Noise effect, which is Effect, Noise and Grain, Fractal Noise. Change the type to Dynamic Twist. And let's tone down the black a bit by upping the brightness to 25. Open up Transform and uncheck Uniform Scaling. Set the width to 150 and the height to 25. Now expand the subsettings. And let's increase the influence to 80. See how it's already looking quite gas gianty? Now just play with the sub rotation. That looks funky. It's sending the top half of the texture in one direction and the bottom half in another. We can totally use that. Set a keyframe for this on your first frame and set another for the end of the comp. Whatever speed you want. The larger the value, the faster your clouds will move. So probably best to err on being subtle. I'm going to set 1 degree for about 10 seconds of animation. Playing that back, you can see what that looks like. Let's also keyframe the evolution. I'll set it to be 360 degrees for the same length of time as the rotation. Now I'm going to add a bit more detail. And I'm going to do this using Turbulent Displace. Effect, Distort, Turbulent Displace. Change the displacement to Twist Smoother and drop the size to 10. Oh, by the way, I'm not some AE genius. What you're seeing is totally the results of experimentation. Now let's go to Effect, Color Correction, Tritone to add some colors. At this point, I'm going to drag my texture image in and use the eyedropper to set my colors. I'll mask it off to the side. And looking at the lightest bands on the image, let's grab this blue bit for the shadows, and then lighten the mid-tones, and a bluey white for our highlights. We'll probably be playing around with this a lot. Now let's duplicate the layer. Making sure it's selected, go to Edit, Duplicate, or just use Ctrl D. Hit Enter and rename this layer Bands. Now tap U to expose the keyframes and reverse the sub-rotation. Now use the Mask tool to make a series of rectangles for this layer. Use the image as a guide if you want, and use the mask feathering and opacity settings to create some differences in the strength of the bands. Jump into the Fractal Noise effect and up the contrast to 120 and drop the brightness to 0. In Turbulent Displace, drop the amount to 30 to create some differences with the bands from the base and double the complexity. Now in the Tritone effect, using the eyedropper, let's set the colours to match the bands. I found though that no matter what I did, it was always just a little strong. So I used the blend with original option to tone it down a bit. 10% should do. Now let's go to Effect, Stylize, Roughen Edges. Let's go beyond just the standard feathering of the mask. Set the border to 30 and the scale to 75. Right, that's that. Now let's add an adjustment layer above everything and use the Mask tool. Mask out the top and the bottom of the texture map. We need to blend and blur these areas for the spherical map. Feather the mask to about 100 and add a tint effect. Again, set these using the image texture. Okay, looking good. There's still a bit more to do, but if we preview what we've got, we can now see that there are bands of clouds moving against each other. Now to add the great red spot. Create another adjustment layer, name this one Spot. Draw an elliptical mask where you think the spot should be. And then go to Effect, Distort, Twirl. Set the center of the twirl to match the center of the mask and spin the rotation amount to -190. Now drop the radius to about 3. Done. Just kidding. Go to Effect, Distort, Bulge. Set the effect to the same center as twirl and set the horizontal and vertical radiuses to approximately match the adjustment layer's mask. And set the height to 3. Let's add a turbulent displace to break up the smoothness, with a size of about 3 and a complexity of 6. Now the real spot has a bit of red-orange in it, but if we tint the layer it doesn't look right. Instead, let's go to Effect, Generate, Circle. Bring the circle into the masked area and then drag it above all the other effects. Drop the radius to 25 and feather it a bit. Set the colour to orange and change the blending mode to normal. Now if I adjust the X and Y coordinates of the circle, I can change how its smeared shape looks. Pretty neat, eh? You can go on to add more circles here and change the size and the colours. As a rule of thumb, the more detail you add, the better. Speaking of which, I learned the hard way when using the Liquify effect on the image map that there are a lot of smaller storms on Jupiter, and I'm not prepared to copy the adjustment layer for them all. Lazy. Instead, I'm going to approach this in a different way. Create a new solid, name it Bubbles, or Storm if that name offends you, and then go to Effect, Simulation, CC Bubbles. Up the bubble count to something like 850 and set all the speed variables to 0 and the bubble size to 2. Change the shading type to Fade Outwards and set the transfer mode for the layer to Color. Now, let's select the base clouds layer and go to Effect, Distort, Displacement Map. Use our new bubble layer as the source, with the source setting changed to Effects and Masks. Set both the horizontal and vertical displacements to alpha with about 15 pixels as the amount for each. Finally for this bit, set the map behavior to stretch map to fit. And that's because if you look at the original texture map, all the storms are ellipses. Partly this is how they stretch over a sphere, but it's also connected to the real life bands, I think, squashing the storms. Whatever the cause, we can replicate this easily. So let's jump back onto our bubbles layer and then go to Layer, Solid Settings and double the height. Quick side tip, did you know AE will do the maths for you? Click on height and type 1080 times 2. Now all the bubbles are appearing on top of the storms and the colour transfer mode does a great job of randomising which storms are tinted and which aren't. Last bit we have to do in here is on the base clouds layer, copy the displacement map effect, select it and use Ctrl C, switch to the bands layer and Ctrl V. And that's it. So looking at the two Jupiters side by side, I think I'd always choose the animated image option when depicting Jupiter. Not surprising really, the texture map uses photos of the actual planet. But I would probably use the procedural option if I was creating a fictitious planet, like Yavin maybe. For this I changed the colours and also turned off a bunch of elements and completely altered the band layers settings. It's included in the comp so you can take a look. I think the main benefit of procedural textures is that proximity doesn't matter. I can only go so far with an image map before I have to find a higher resolution texture. That plus procedural's flexibility to alter the look. But what do you think? Is the procedural version worth it? Is the animated texture option too limiting and not noticeable enough? Let me know in the comments below, and if you do use this or any of my tutorials in your projects, please let me know too. It's great to hear that I've helped someone. Next time, Saturn and those rings.